I am still to this day getting more and more impressed by what it takes to become a top 100 tennis player.
Yeah.
It is so difficult. Unbelievably difficult. And I think sometimes I have also been in the role where I have promised too much. So, well, this is the road. You just need to do X, Y, Z. And the reality for me is, well, probably the only thing that we can, no matter who we're dealing with, well, we can say we can't count you out yet. So there's also something about setting expectations. I'm all in. I don't want to shut down any dreams. I'm all in for saying, if someone is saying, I would like to be a professional tennis player, then I think we as coaches also have an obligation to help with realities. In terms of, well, you are right now here. What you are talking about is out here. What is required in terms of effort just to have an opportunity of doing that is XYZ. Yeah. Also, you should know relative, you are number 25 in Denmark at this point in time. And yes, there are outliers, but even if you were number 1 in Denmark, it wouldn't necessarily say anything. On a global scale, there's only 5 players in each year someone is born that gets to make a living out of playing tennis.
Yeah.
So it's not to shut down any dreams, but I also think clearing expectations of what it actually means when people are dreaming about becoming the next Serena and Novak Djokovic, not to scare them off, but also being real. I think that balance is something that I'm still struggling a little bit with myself, but I've gotten a little bit more honest just in terms of, do you know what it is that you're actually saying? And it's also completely okay if we start out with a goal that is, could I potentially, if I'm a Dane, go to college tennis? Yeah. And then let's see after that.
Yeah, well, I think the way that I try and do that, again, right, it might not be right, but it's something that has worked somewhat for me, and I think some people around, is not it's not our job, I believe, to ever squash an ambition or a dream. It is absolutely our job to bring some reality into managing expectation, 100%. And I think arguably the best way of doing that is through timelining. So I'll actually share a live example of this. Billy Harris, who I love Billy, and Billy, incredible story, incredible. Like, it's amazing. I've just been with him in America, and I'm just like, he blows me away, Billy, of what he's achieved. And he hasn't quite broke top 100. He will, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't. He's just an incredible journey. When I started working with Billy Harris, Billy came and he said, I said, what does success look like to you? And I like to ask that question to any players that I work with. And he said, well, playing French Open Juniors. I want to play French Open Juniors. Okay, Billy, let's do it, man. Let's do it. Okay, and what's your schedule like between now and French Open Juniors? Well, I'm playing these tournaments. Well, those tournaments won't count, Billy, because 6 weeks before the French Open is when the final cutoff is. And you're currently about 180, 200 ITF Juniors. So just to give you a little bit of realism, you only are going to play 2 tournaments that are going to count, and they're 2 grade 2s at the time. If you win them, you win 200 points. But in order to play the French Open, you need 420 points. So we're failing, mate. Like, we're fully set up to fail. Like, and I'm not sure I want to jump into this relationship where you go and win those 2 events, and then you turn around and say, well, Dan couldn't even get me into the French Open. It's a small little story, but it's something that we see across the board all the time. I've had another player that came in and said they want to be top 10 in the World Juniors, and that player was 19, to which I had to explain to them that I think your time's passed. But what I would do is I would timeline and then build back. So, okay, if you want to be top 100 in the world, that's what you've got to do. And then a year before that, what does your ranking need to be? Oh, about 250. Okay, yeah. And a year before that, about 400. Okay. A year before that, about 700. Okay. A year before that, 1,000. A year before that, my first ATP or WTA points. Okay, so that's a 7-year process from getting your first ATP point. And you're saying you want to be top 100 in the next 2 years. And currently, so it's doing that because it leaves the dream, which is important, because we all live in dreams, like I still dream that I'll play for Newcastle United one day, you never know. Who knows what might happen, but it then brings the reality into that more shorter term moment or a shorter term period. And really what we're looking at then is the next 12, 18, 24 months. And that for me is absolutely vital, that is an incredibly realistic, honest, hard-hitting conversation, that we get that bit right. Otherwise we're set up for failure.